Hi there, Nazila. Welcome to the Making Math Moments That Matter podcast. We're really excited to kind of chat with you and kind of dig in to see, what's going on in your world. But before we do, let us know where you're coming from. What grade level are you teaching?
Good morning. I teach in Morgan Hill, California. I teach Math 3, which is equivalent to Algebra 2, and I teach AP Pre-Calculus.
Got it. Awesome stuff.
And also Math 3 support this year.
Great. One question we ask all our guests is about their math moment, which is what stands out to you when we say math class? Like what memories kind of stick with you all these years? It's like when we say math class, an image will probably flashes in your mind. And I want to kind of hear about that. Like, so when we say math moment, what would you say is like this moment that has stuck with you?
I mean, I guess it's about how I became a teacher mainly.
Sure.
Because teaching was not my original career, and I was just helping one of our teachers in our community who got diagnosed with Parkinson's, our beloved Mr. Hill. And the love that students shared with him in the classroom while I was subbing for him, that was, and then at the same time, the rigorous was just preserved. Everything was perfect in his classroom as a teacher. At the same time, the bonding that he had with the students.
Mm-hmm.
We were lucky that my older daughter he's a student as well. And then she's a PhD student in computer security now, but she still remembers him as the best math teacher and the way that he talked about triangles and congruential triangles. We
Right.
Never she's not going to forgive that. That's why I wanted to see how I can become Mr. Hill.
How did that, like, so if it influenced you to become a teacher, what did you bring with you into the classroom that, from him so that you carried forward? Is there a style that you follow? Like what about your teaching was influenced there?
Basically, I have the end goal observed by his classroom, but unfortunately, I was not lucky enough to be in his classroom while he was teaching. Right. But the knowledge of the content is, I think I'm confident about that. But how I can connect with my students, how I can make my students feel safe and right. connected to the content, that's something that I've been working on, and that's something that I'm passionate about. So I think that's the value I am trying to have in my classroom.
Love
and
it.
Probably being a mom has helped me.
Right. Yeah. Awesome. So what's on your mind lately? Like, what can we dig in here today?
So last year I had Math 1 support, which was not very successful in terms of students' engagement as well as like their understanding of the content. And then this year I have Math 3 support, which is Algebra 2 support. It's for seniors who are this is the last year in high school, and they are about to graduate, but they are put in this class to make sure that they pass Algebra 2. And I just don't want the same experience as last year happened. Right. And yeah, I'm looking for more engagement, meaningful engagement, not just doing the worksheet here. And I was listening to a couple of your podcasts, and I noticed that for the first step, one of your listeners was suggesting, oh, why do we call these classes math support? For the first step, we call them math lab, because if you have a negative,
right.
So that's why, but it was too late for me to ask our principal, okay, let's just change it to, but starting with that, I'm looking for more activities that are engaging, basically.
Got it. What have you tried so far?
So far, I'm a huge fan of posters and whiteboards. Basically, almost all around my classrooms, I have those whiteboards, and I give them and group work. I believe in group work. So I give them like some tasks, and then they create posters either on the whiteboard or on an actual paper. And then they have to come and present, or we do a gallery walk. That's something that I'm very comfortable with. But still, within that group, I'm not sure if everyone is being challenged enough to their best potential.
Got it.
And I want to add more varieties, more games, but I was not raised in a classroom with a lot of games. That's why
Right.
I'm not very comfortable with those games.
Right.
At the same time, um, maybe it's on me as a teacher. Sometimes I find them distracting and it's like too much around the core content. And I'm not sure if it's always worth the time.
Got it. Okay. So I think I heard two wonders here. Like you, and correct me here, or kind of guide me here on say what your most immediate need might be. You said one of the things you've been trying is you're getting students to engage in group work. You've got whiteboards. You're working around the room. They present. They talk about gallery walks. You know, you're using those techniques to engage students. But I think you're wondering is how do I challenge all the students when that's happening, and you're concerned that maybe some students aren't being challenged, and wondering maybe how to do that. There was a second. I heard kind of a second wonder in there too. Is like, what about games? Like, should I be using more games in my class? If so, how do I do that effectively and also make sure I'm rigorous enough and cover, what needs to be covered? Is which one of those, because I feel like those are two kind of maybe separate but related questions or wonders or pebbles that you have rattling around in your shoe right now. Which one do you want to kind of nibble down on?
Maybe number two, but I want to make sure that I'm thinking beyond games. Games was just
Right.
example.
So the games, yeah. So maybe like how we can relate the two is that you're wondering like if I do games, maybe I'm not being rigorous enough and people are not being challenged enough, and that might relate to your question number one, which is when I'm in trying to create engagement with students, am I challenging everyone?
Exactly.
Right, right. It's a very very common concern. What suggests right now in your room, and when you think about your classes last year, and going into this year, that those students weren't being challenged. Like some students weren't being challenged.
I guess lack of confidence in themselves was the first thing. Most of them, I mean, up to eighth grade, everyone can pass math, but probably they were not getting good grades, and they had always been told that you're not good in math, you cannot do it, I don't understand it, it doesn't, my brain freezes, and they had come with that perception,
Right.
making them believe that, you know what, this is a fresh start. You can do this. This is a safe place for you to try and be wrong. This was hard for me. I mean, I could reach out meaningfully to a few of them. And even with that, it took me so long that it was too late.
Now, if we think about, you're seeing that there's a lack of confidence. They come in with these preconceived notions of their past.
Yes.
What about the structure of your lesson that you feel like is not challenging students to reach their full potential?
I think it was too similar to a regular math class. So they were already, okay, I have a math class, like 2 hours before I had a math class, I was saying the same thing.
Okay.
Probably I need to see a different environment here.
Right. Right. And I guess my wonder though is what makes you think the students aren't being challenged in your new environment math class?
Because they don't engage.
I see. Tell me more about that. Like, what does that look like?
I mean, it's like I walk around, the worksheets look clean, neat, everything is being written perfectly. But if I ask, oh, why do you put a negative here? When you do -2 times 2, you get a -4. But why do you get a -4? They have a hard time explaining because someone randomly said it's -4. They wrote it down.
Sure.
And they are not curious enough why to ask me. I don't have many students to come and ask me why this is happening. This is, I'm just talking about my last year experience, which was with freshmen.
Right.
It was a really, really tough experience. I had math support class, IM3, like math 3, 2 years ago, which was way better. I was able to raise the engagement to 50%, 60%. But why not 100%?
Well, what was different about the two? Like, tell me about those differences.
I guess the level of maturity of students was very helpful. because in general, I don't know if this is our community or this is very common, but our freshmen come here with its different perception of school. So until they get tuned to the whole environment, it takes a long time.
Right.
But someone who is a senior at IM3, even though probably they are not math-wise very advanced, but they have seen it all, they have experienced it all, and many of them are very motivated because they want to graduate.
Right. So what I'm hearing is that in your lessons last year, and what you want to do is change for this year, is that you weren't seeing engagement when you wanted to see engagement, and led you to think that the students aren't being challenged enough, and that's what your main worry is. And I think you're looking for, how do I engage my students so they stick with their problems and they ask good questions. You're looking for that general level engagement and all, as many students as you can get. You think, or you said that you noticed that if the maturity level was different, then you get more engagement in that way. And that generally, in my experience as well, has been true. You got students who kind of know where they want to go, and they work towards getting those goals. And sometimes younger students just aren't sure exactly where they want to go, which kind of led me to think about, how do I set up the structure of my classroom, and thinking about, like, what is it that I'm after, and what is it that I really I'm trying to promote when students are inside this room, and what are the moves that I make, and what are the choices that I make? How does that translate into my beliefs around math education, and what those students are going to experience? Like, one of the things that I did right off the first week is we want to paint them a picture of, like, what it would look like on a regular basis. So if we believe in we have to decide, what do we think, our math experience should look like? If I believe that students are effective problem solvers, and if I believe that they can be effective problem solvers, I have to decide, what about my lesson structure actually promotes that and rewards that? Because for years, I used to say that. I used to say that I want problem solving. Like, if I met a student walking down the street 10 years from now, and I said, "Hey, what did you get about my math class?" I absolutely wanted them to say, like, "You helped me become a better problem solver." Like, I actively thought that that's what I was doing. But when I reflected on my lessons for my first 10 years, I don't think I was doing anything to build problem solving. I wasn't building anything to build the confidence around problem solving in mathematics, or to ask good questions, because I never gave them those opportunities to do real problem solving, because I was hey, here's the note, here's the worksheet, let me walk you through this, and this. And then I'm going, you're now going to practice it the typical way we all learn mathematics. I just replicated that. But when you say, like, oh, problem solving, that's word problems. So let me bring up a word problem. I'm going to make kids be able to solve these word problems. But what did I do? I walked them through it. Here's how you here's the keywords you want to look for in a word problem. Here's how you solve it. Here's the technique. Go ahead and do a bunch of these now. Like, at no time during my lesson that I was actually getting students to go through the problem solving process, which is, think on their own about, like, what is it that this is asking me? How do I pick a strategy, and how do I carry out that strategy? And then how do I check back? When we think about Polia's, problem solving strategies and plan and process, and, like, I came to realize, like, that's how we have to teach problem solving. If my goal in my belief is to achieve that for my students, I have to go and take an honest look at what my structure looks like, to see if I'm actually creating that. And I wasn't giving students the opportunity to solve unfamiliar problems and then have them, actively reflect around that problem solving process. So when I decided that, oh my gosh, like, I've been missing out on this, and I needed to change the structure, it was like I flipped the class around. It was like, okay, we're going to solve problems to start that are unfamiliar. Here's a particular task. Here's for a while I would grab, go to the textbook, and I would grab a problem that was a word problem, but I would strip some of the information away so that they have to ask questions and wonder, and then get that curiosity going, so that they are asking for, like, I need a little bit more information here. Well, what information do you think would be helpful? Like, you're getting them to solve some problem solving strategies, and going, okay, now if I have this information, what would I do with it? And really what I was doing was I was changing the culture of my room because I was giving voice to students who, there's value in your wonders, there's value in your thinking. So let's reward that by helping you work through these problems, and that became the culture of our room, that we always started lessons with actual problems, and we ended with the worksheet, and we ended with the note taking at the end instead of the other way around. We used Kyle and I used to call that the real flip classroom. Is like starting with the end and having a real intentionality of where you needed to go in that lesson, and then bring the students along with you on this kind of journey. So if you are working with like whiteboards around the room, like what tasks are we starting our lesson with so that they have to do all the thinking, and then you're, navigating the conversations that are happening at the board and walking around. And when I notice a student is disengaged, it's either because I picked maybe a problem that was beyond their reach. And it's like, well, what are the backup kind of helper questions that I can pull out of my pocket to refocus them, or navigate that conversation and give them something, a nugget to kind of noodle on, and then move on to the next group. And it was kind of like I was walking around group to group going, what does this group need to keep moving forward? What does this group need to keep moving forward on the intentionality of where we wanted to go, which is maybe, getting to a particular strategy that did need to come out because that was the goal of the lesson today. But sometimes that first initial, when I first got started on changing the structure of my lessons, sometimes that problem solving process only lasted, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And then it was like, okay, now we need to come back together and talk about a particular strategy, or we all go over to a board, and, we've selected and we sequenced a particular problem or a strategy a student was working on. And we kind of walked everyone through that. And then we said, go back and try that yourself. And it was really about getting students to think and think and think, and then reward them for that thinking, the pats on the back, or this was great. And really what happened was, like, not everyone was engaged, right? But more students were engaged than before. And we always tied the lesson up with a bow at the end. We always came back and go, here was the intentionality of today's lesson. Here's the strategy or the technique that we want to make sure it comes out. And here's an example. And maybe here's the next step. Here's a couple practice problems for you to try right now. And then here's your homework. So at the high school level, that's the way I structured those types of lessons. And then when students and then when you practice that over and over again, you're giving students that problem solving experience, but you will get better at choosing the right problems that keep them engaged longer. And then you'll get better at noticing when the time is right to pull them together and have that discussion. And you'll also notice when students themselves are disengaging, because of behavior, and maybe that's because they're off task, because it's too much for them. It's about kind of that balance, while you're navigating the classroom, to keep the challenge going. Because not only do you have those backup questions in your pocket that you pull out when you feel like a student's disengaged, they might be disengaged because it's too much, but they might be disengaged because it's too little. It's like, I've already solved this problem. And then you have the backup question ready to go to keep them moving forward so that they are challenged enough. And having that foresight of, like, here's my intentionality of the exact lesson goal I want to accomplish today. Here's what it looks like if a student is achieving that goal. Mm-hmm. And then here's the next steps I want to keep them engaged if they're reaching that goal. So it's a lot of planning up front. What are your thoughts so far on those suggestions? That's a lot. That's a lot of kind of like consult, think of it as like, I probably took baby steps along the way, but that's the way my lessons kind of were modified. Like I said, the beginning was like sometimes short bursts and then come back, but it extended over time to be a little bit longer at the boards. What do you think is reasonable for you?
I guess I can totally see myself being successful in the strategies that you mentioned in my pre-calculus class. And I can see myself being successful with those strategies in my algebra to math 3 class. But in support class, I have to think about, like,
what's holding you back for real in that support class?
Okay, so if I present them with the end goal, and then, as you said, the flipped classroom, I don't think I'm gonna have that. I'm gonna lose them right away. It's too much. I'm bad in math. I just want to graduate and get out of here. I don't want to be negative point. That's
No, no, it's
yeah.
good because these are wonders and scary. You know, the scaries are here of like how students are going to respond if I give up a little bit of control of what they're supposed to do when. And I think we sometimes think that I'm going to plan this lesson because the students can't think. And this is Peter Littledale,
I
who wrote
don't
Building
believe
Thinking
they
Lessons.
can't think. I really don't believe in that. I believe they are told or they have
Right. So
they feel
here's the
they
thing.
can.
Here's the thing. They've believed that, right?
Mhm.
Because the way we've structured math class for years for them is that we're just going to front load and give you everything because we're really telling you that you really can't think on your own anyway. And they learn that that's what they have to offer because if the teacher's saying, I'm going to walk you through this step by step so you don't have to think, then they're like, and then they still don't get it. And then they're like, oh my gosh, I can't do anything around mathematics. We have to be able to give them opportunities to do some of the thinking. So sometimes it's small, sometimes it's a notice and wonder, and sometimes it's which one doesn't belong. Getting them to kind of voice thoughts and ideas and strategies, and then they're just little baby things. Like for a long time, I did just warm ups where we got voice happening in the classroom, and then extended into let's send you to the wall to do this little problem that will get you to draw a picture or use a strategy, or maybe it's something from last week to get you to solve the problem before I solve the problem. And sometimes those baby steps, if you're consistent with them, they'll turn into bigger steps. And that's kind of how you want to get started is take these little baby steps, but with the goal of going, what, and this comes back to what I started this kind of idea with is like, what do I actually believe that I want students to get out of this math class? Do I want them to have problem solving? Do I want them to feel confident? Do I want them to, feel challenged? Then what am I doing to actively promote that? And can I make changes so that I create that kind of environment and I create that outcome for those students? Because I want those things too, but I knew that teaching the way that I was taught by, giving them that typical math class lesson wasn't doing those things. And it was us kind of going, well, I'm going to experiment a little bit. I'm going to experiment to see what works with this group. And if it doesn't work with this group, is it because I'm not consistent and therefore I just need to be consistent here over time?
Mhm.
Or is it actually something that isn't going to work? Or maybe I didn't handle it right. Or maybe I chose the wrong tasks to start. So we have to like be able to experiment if we know that something's not working and then making a change. So you coming on, here to chat with me today, know something's not working. And now the question is, what am I willing and committed to change so that I can experiment to see if it will work?
I'll do my best.
What do you feel is something that you could commit to making a change this year?
I guess I'm thinking my goal should be beyond just all help them pass the class. It should be beyond that. I have to make them um, more interested in math and, as you said, their problem solving skills. This has to be tickled enough.
Got it. So I'm hearing you say like, okay, my goal has to be more than just get them to pass, which is
Exactly.
maybe what your goal was before. And
Mhm.
now you're going, okay, if that's my goal, is what is the real goal? If it's not just to get them to pass, then what is the real goal? And
Mhm.
what are some of the things that I'm going to commit to
Mhm.
making sure that by the end of the year I reached that new goal?
Yes, exactly.
Is there anything you want to share with us that says, hey, this is the actual goal I want to commit to, and maybe here's one thing I want to change this year, and I'll commit to that.
So, actual real goal, as I said, I want to make sure that they all believe that they can do it, and not only they can do it, at some point they are willing to do it. They want to do it. They enjoy doing it. That should be my main goal.
Okay.
And then what I'm going to do about it, I don't know exactly, but I'm gonna experience as I move forward. But probably less of my voice in the classroom and more of their voice as a blanket rule.
Now, let me ask you this. You're not sure what to do about it because it's like, I just need a plan, and it would like I could follow this plan or I could follow these ideas. I might try that. Is that what's holding you back from
No, 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 no,
knowing
no. I
what to
guess the
do?
no, no, no. I guess the plan is very general now to me. But as I said, I need to be not provided. I have to seek it myself. More strategies, more practical strategies.
Got it.
If, as you said, I have to give them more tasks, more independent tasks, have their voice in the classroom be heard more than my voice.
Right.
So I need to create a lot of engaging activities or strategies that make it happen.
Now I'm thinking that we have an online course that
Mhm.
is exactly helps with the structure around what the tasks look like, how to use those tasks to get at exactly these ideas that you want to change in your classroom. If I sent you, a complimentary access to that course, which is there's videos to watch, which we talk about what this looks like in the classroom. Here are the things to
Mhm.
try. Here are the things to avoid. Here's the
Mhm.
problems that come up. Would you commit to completing that course to make these changes in your room?
Of course, but yeah, I mean that's just really amazing, and I appreciate the opportunity. But may I ask, what is the level of commitment? I mean, is it like self-paced? Is
Yeah,
it?
it's self-paced.
Uh-huh.
It's self-paced. There's 6 modules. Each module
Mhm.
might be an hour. So it's designed for you to do a little bit each week.
Mhm.
But you would have it for the year to work through. So you could say, I'm going to commit to watching one small chunk of the lesson, each week. And then by Christmas, I'll have completed this course and I'll be feeling more confident. I'll be having kind of a plan to move forward.
I would love that. Thank you so much. And do
Okay.
you want me to do something about like in return, like monitor my classroom, give you some kind of report
Well,
or?
yeah, what we'll do is and if you're open to it,
Mhm.
after let's say maybe a year from now. So let's say
Mhm.
you do the course, you commit to some of the things from the course, and then a year from now we come back and have a conversation about what changed, where your pebbles are now. Would you be open to coming back and chatting about, what your classroom looked like, a year from now?
Yeah, that is perfect. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Perfect. Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. Okay, so after the call, I'll make sure that you have access to that. But yeah, Nazila, what would you say is your next step and maybe a big takeaway from today's call?
Being hopeful. Yeah, being
Love it.
hopeful. I guess, um, yeah, the main goal should be maybe, as my daughter say too, I'm a very protective mom. Maybe I have to stop in my classroom. I should be less protective of them. Let
Maybe.
them experience.
Right, right. Let them fail a little bit, or let them kind of
Let them
experiment a little bit. That's true.
experience.
That's sometimes we try to help too much. And it's not far fault. We get into teaching to help kids, and we think the best way is to show them the way. So sometimes we need to
Back
kind of
off.
tinker with things. Let them tinker with things. So
Exactly. Yes.
awesome stuff. Thanks so much for joining us here, and we can't wait to check in with you in a year.
Of course. Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity.
Awesome. Take care.
Have a great day. Bye.
You too. Bye.